Hi. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. I think we can start. Our guest today is Mr. Toby Howard, Deputy Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan, who is joining us virtually from Chad. Howard, hi, can you hear us? If our colleagues can help us, the technicians, we can see Howard, but the screen is frozen. Howard?
Toby, I can hear you now.
Hi.
And I can see you too.
Perfect. Okay. Toby Howard, Deputy Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan. Welcome to our briefing today. Please go ahead. He's going to be making a few remarks and taking some of your questions. Please go ahead.
Great. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. I just returned from Darfur last week. We were in for 2 weeks, myself and a recce team from different UN agencies, and we were there for two reasons: primarily to recce different potential UN common premises on the ground, so we can re-establish a firm and a permanent UN presence back in Darfur. Which will allow us to work much more closely with NGOs, reinforce their capacities, and also scale up the volume and scale that is desperately needed to respond to the very, very horrific, desperate humanitarian situation on the ground. We also went to talk with the local de facto authorities, which in this case is the Rapid Support Forces, in some of the areas where we visited, and the Sudan Liberation Army Abdul Wahid an-Nur faction, up in Jebel Marra and some of those surrounding areas. We met with INGOs and national NGOs, and we met with IDP leaders and various vulnerable populations to sort of ascertain their situation. We crossed through the only crossing that we are allowed to cross. We are permitted to cross according to the position of the government of Sudan. In Port Sudan, we crossed through Tina, which is a crossing into North Darfur. And as I said, it's controlled by the allies of the Sudanese armed forces. And then we traveled down into West and then central Darfur. What we found on the ground, we visited multiple IDP camps and gathering sites in Zalenji, the capital of central Darfur, and then across Jebel Marra and the surrounding areas, one of the most hard to reach areas in Darfur. And we met with, as I said, tens of thousands of
Toby Howard.
And then secondly, yes?
Sorry, you broke up for a little bit. Could you please repeat the last sentence?
Sure. So we met with a significant number of IDPs in Jebel Marra, locations across Jebel Marra, primarily IDPs who had fled from the recent fighting in El Fasher, but also they'd fled from previous battles across Darfur, and also they came from as far away as El Obeid, Khartoum, and Sennar in the east of the country. Whereas
we apologize for this connectivity problem. If we can ask our colleagues, the technicians.
There are many other tens of thousands who have fled, and again, earlier battles and earlier conflicts, and they are seeking safety and sanctuary in areas under the control of the Sudan Liberation Army Abdul Wahid faction. The SLA estimates that there are several million IDPs on its territory. We're not able to confirm those figures, but we can confirm that there are certainly hundreds of thousands of recent and long-term IDPs in that region, and the situation is very desperate. Camp leaders in Zalenji informed us that some IDPs survive off tree leaves, grain husks, and groundnut remnants in order to survive. They said that 3 to 5 children die every day, although we're not able to confirm independently those figures. We visited one
Again, apologies.
Inundated with water following the start of the rainy season. Am I cutting out?
A little bit, yes, Toby. So could you please repeat where you visited? Last sentence.
Yeah, we visited camp leaders in Zelenji, where we were informed that IDPs were surviving off tree leaves, grain husks, and groundnut remnants. We were in Titi, where we met with there were 2,000 IDPs.
Toby.
Inundated with water since the rain started, and they are large numbers of children are facing flu, coughs, cold, and other symptoms of illness. We met with, they are absolutely, those IDPs are begging for essential shelter items like plastic sheeting, floor mats, blankets, mosquito nets, as well as food, nutrition, and medical supplies. In Golo, up in the center of the mountain of Jabal Marra, there are 70 IDPs living in one classroom. And of course, all of the classrooms are full. Education stopped a long time ago. By the local de facto authorities under very flimsy coverings, which were being blown away in the wind and the rain. And we met with 77 children who had been admitted last week into MSF Spain's hospital with acute malnutrition and medical complications, to quote MSF Spain. The number of admittances with acute malnutrition and medical complications is rising every week. The week before it was 58. And these children are the lucky ones. We did have reports from MSF, IMC, and a number of other medical-based NGOs saying that significant numbers of children and vulnerable people are dying in hard-to-reach areas when they are unable to get to the few clinics and hospitals that are functioning. But we also encountered some better news, and I'll just finish on slightly better news. Many IDPs said that they feel safe in the Jabal Marra area, under the areas under the control of the Sudan Liberation Army Abdul Wahid faction. Host communities are doing incredible work, sharing what little food that they have with those local, with the newly arrived IDPs, even though their own stocks of food are reducing very, very fast. And
Toby.
Significant flooding.
Toby.
But they are now able to get out in the fields and plant crops. And that is a positive sign. And we hope very much that if the rainy season, the agricultural season, is successful, this will reduce the numbers of people that are subject to IPC 5 and IPC 4 levels of food insecurity, as set out in the latest IPC snapshot set out at the end of June. There have also been some positive developments in local truces, local agreements between the de facto local authorities, the Rapid Support Forces, the SLA Abdul Wahid, and local militia commanders recently agreed a truce on a very critical access road from Zelenji to Natiti, which now allows people to go along that road and feel safe enough to carry out agricultural activities there. But the overall message that we received is that the numbers of IDPs are huge. The needs are growing on a daily basis. There are more IDPs arriving, and we are very much afraid as the war continues, we are going to see many, many more innocent people dying of malnutrition, dying of other preventable diseases, unless we can considerably scale up the amounts of aid and assistance that are crossing the border from Chad and that are coming cross-line from Port Sudan and are required to reach some of these areas, IPC 5 areas and IPC 4 areas, some of which we visited in the last couple of weeks. I will stop there, and hopefully the line will allow us to have an interactive question and answer session.
Yeah, Toby,
back to you.
Thank you, Toby. May I suggest if you could turn off your video, maybe that will help with the connectivity. And I apologize again for all these technical issues. We will try to see if Toby has his introductory remarks to be shared with you. Let's start. Yes, Emily, please go ahead.
Thanks for talking to us. Amélie Bottelier from AFP News Agency. You were talking about access of humanitarian aid. Can you tell us what the situation of the border crossing between Chad and Sudan? The US ambassador to the UN recently said that the Security Council should create some kind of cross-border mechanism like was done in Syria a few years ago. Do you think that that would be needed for your operations on the ground? Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I didn't catch all of your question, but I think I got it sufficiently. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So access, yeah, access.
Toby, you're breaking up again.
Crossing, we have been scaling up the amount of trucks, all UN agencies scaling up the number of trucks, and a few INGO trucks too, across that border. It's taken a long time to recontract trucks to get up there. To find sufficient trucks that are available up there, it costs a lot more than it costs to enter through the Adre cross-border entry point, and it's a lot more logistically challenging. Right now we have a rainy season, which is constantly filling up this large wadi valley between Tina Chad and Tina Sudan, which results in our trucks being held on one side of the border for sort of 48, 72 hours while we wait for the waters to recede sufficiently to get across. We are then being inspected by the governing authorities and their allies, and then trucks are going on directly to their final destinations. But one crossing through Tina with the logistical complications that we are facing is simply not sufficient, and we are in absolutely urgent need of additional crossings, first and foremost the Adre crossing. You mentioned that there are discussions of a mechanism that was employed between
Toby.
The government of Sudan, and we very much hope that we will be able to get a positive response from them so that we are able to remove any concerns that the government would have on us using the cross-border, the point in Adre. Because there are asphalt tarmac roads from El Janena through to Zelenji, and then from Natiti through to Niala and up to Menawashi. I apologize for using so many geographic place names when you don't have a map. But because of that tarmac road, it is the only entry point that where we have a reasonable chance of increasing aid sufficiently in order to respond both in volume and in scale, in order to have a chance at responding to the very, very dire humanitarian situation on the ground. So we really do rely on the government of Sudan providing us with that access. We will do what it takes to ensure that there is a mechanism on the ground there at the border, but we do need that access. As many corridors as we can to ensure we're putting in the maximum amount of aid according to the resources we have available. Amelie, did I answer your question sufficiently, or did I miss a critical
Yes, she's nodding. She's nodding, despite the connectivity problems. But
okay.
Thank you, Toby. Yes, Abdul Hamid, go ahead.
Thank you, Toby. This is Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. My first question is about the safety of you and staff. How safe you feel moving in that region? And second, who is in control? Do you see some forces there in control and you can navigate your way through them, or you have to negotiate your activities with them? And have you traced any foreign presence there, if you can shed some light on foreign intervention there? Thank you.
Thanks, Abdul Hamid. Assalamu alaikum wa ahlan wa sahlan. Yeah, how safe do I feel? I feel safe. I feel completely safe. I have always felt safe in Darfur. It is very clear that the situation is very volatile, not just in the areas under the control of the parties or
Toby.
Of uncontrolled militias, of militia commanders who are not affiliated or strongly affiliated to either side, who take advantage of the lack of rule of law and take advantage in order to loot and to steal property and to profit from that. We have
Apologies about this.
But the vast majority have reached their destination safely. That being said, the RSF need to do more to ensure that they have full command and control over all of their fighters and their affiliated allies. Abdul Hamid, as I guess you may know, there are large numbers of autonomous and relatively independent groups who inhabit certain areas of Darfur, who do what they like. They do not, the RSF does not have full control and command and control over them. And it is absolutely essential that the RSF does ensure that they have full control over all fighters, either with them or affiliated to them, so that IHL and IHRL and humanitarian freedom of movement is respected. But I can say that, yes, I feel safe. There is a need for negotiations. We went through an area called Fort Ramla, close to Natiti, where some of these militia commanders who are not completely affiliated to the RSF exercise control. And they feel very strongly that their areas are not sufficiently supplied with humanitarian assistance. So there is a need for close and have our best opportunity of getting through some of the checkpoints and non-affiliated militia areas that exist across Darfur. No, I have not seen any foreign presence during my visits, both in Jabal Marra and Zelenji this time, and in El Fasher earlier this year in April. Over.
Thank you. Any other questions in the room or online for our guest? If there's nothing else, Toby Howard, the Deputy Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan, I'd like to thank you very much for talking to us despite all the connectivity issues. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for your patience.
Thank you very much.